Hello and welcome back to ABG Investor Days. My name is Adrian Gilani. I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG covering the cap goods sector. Our next presentation will be with GARO, and with me today I have CEO Patrik Andersson, who will give a presentation of about 20 minutes, and then we will have a Q&A session. So with that being said, I will leave it up to you, Patrik.
Thank you very much and welcome everyone to the GARO presentation. My name is Patrik Andersson and I'm the CEO for the GARO Group. Next slide, please. I will start with an introduction of the GARO Group. GARO was founded in 1939, which means that we have been over 80 years in this business. There we develop and produce innovative product and turnkey solutions for the electrical installation markets. We divide our business into 4 strong product areas, which is electrical distribution products, which contributes for 42% of our revenues. E-mobility, 33%, project, 18%, and temporary power, 7%. These 4 areas make GARO's offer unique, which I will explain more further on in the presentation. We have operations in Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Finland, Poland, and in the UK. And of course, we're also making business to several countries in Europe, which is prioritized market for GARO. We have production on 4 sites. 2 in Gnosjö in Sweden, where we also have our head office, 1 in Värnamo in Sweden, and the 4th site in Szczecin in Poland. And our turnover for 2020 was 1,040 million SEK, and we are approximately about 470 employees in the group. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see our 4 strong product area that I mentioned before. The largest product area, electrical distribution products, consists of approximately 3,500 products and turnkey solutions for the electrical installation markets. An example of the products is components, safety switches, meter cabinets, outlet boxes, plugs and sockets, which is product used every day in different applications such new buildings, renovation, industrial, e-mobility solutions, etc. Our fastest growing product area is e-mobility, which we develop and market all type of chargers for rechargeable vehicles. And I will explain more about this fast growing area later in the presentation. Our third area is project, which provides complete and customized solutions for all types of power supply for apartment, villa, industry, and e-mobility solutions. And the 4th product area, temporary power, with product portfolio consisting of temporary electricity, lighting, heating, drying. This is product used for on construction sites and different events. These 4 areas make GARO's offer unique and easy for the customer. An example of this is when the customer need a charging solution, for example, with different chargers from the e-mobility. They also need a power supply from projects and safety and installation product from electrical distribution products. This make it easy, simple, and safe. Next slide, please. I will, during this presentation, focus on one of our 4 product area, e-mobility. GARO presented the first charging station already 2008, with a lot of knowledge from similar solutions that have been market leading provider for many years in car heaters, camping sites, marinas, that we used to develop a strong and innovative charging range. Today, we offer a broad range of all type of vehicle chargers, and we have created product for different environments to make it easy for the user. And I will now provide you with several examples later in the presentation. But as you already know, we see a continuing strong trend with further expansion of charging infrastructure in all markets. Next slide, please. What is the driver in the market? Important factors is, of course, the climate to reduce the CO2 emissions, and an effect of this is the transition to hybrid and now more and more pure electrical cars. It is also important with reliability and the communication between the car, charging station and the cloud to make it easy for all stakeholders to choose and use an electrical car. The initiatives is different. It is in the different countries is important in the beginning of this transition to increase the pace of expansion of infrastructure, but of course decreases in importance over the years. Next slide, please. And what is GARO's goal and business concept to help the world with a better climate? We think it is to make it easy for all stakeholders to use and live with an electrical car, and therefore we provide and develop charging infrastructure for different application and locations. Next slide, please. I will give you some example of GARO's offer and how we can help the customer with complete solutions from one supplier. We believe it's extremely important to establish safe and smart charging facilities in the home, since everyone who owns a hybrid or an electrical car needs to be able to charge the vehicle in home environments. Crucial factor of the choice of wall box is safety, always first, functionality and load balancing, and of course soft values such design. The next environment that will be important is workplace. Safety is clear, also vital here, but is functionality and load balancing. Smart solutions for the assembly of charger products, since they can take place in various ways, such walls, poles, etc. And here also measurement and payment to establish a fair distribution of energy, such as, for example, our G-Cloud system or another backend system. Next area is when we are traveling long distance. This will be the same need that we have today for our fossil fuel cars. Stop along the way to the distance and refuel. This will result in the need for fast charger to be able to quickly, safely and efficiently charging batteries. For this well-developed system and players are already in place to ensure that the payment works correctly and that all our charger communicate with different operating using communication called OCPP. For quick charging, the power uptime is extremely important, which means that the charger must be functional and be accessible. As such, we offer service agreement when we sell these type of charger to ensure the accessibility of the charger. We have now also launched product for temporary charging of service cars at the construction site that also can be used on events such as a concert, for example. This summer, we also launched a combined camping and charging station that could be used on camping sites, so you can charge your car and power supply your caravan at the same time. So this is some example of our solution, and we believe it's important to charge where the people live and work. Next slide, please. To summarize the GARO presentation, we believe in future-proof choice with product with reliability, sustainability, and simplicity and smart. Since 2008, we have been developing all type of electrical car charging and deliver products to whole Europe, and this has made GARO a leading supplier of charging infrastructure. E-mobility product from GARO is always safe, and sustainable choice with reliable and support close at hand. With our own qualified product development and high technical know-how in software and electronics, we manufacture our own high-quality products. This also means that we always make sure that the future technical advanced will be implemented into GARO's current product range. We have created products for different environments, and we can offer complete solutions with product from all our product areas. This makes it easy for the installer, the owner of the building, but also the end user of the pure electrical car. Next slide, please. And this is our offer to make the future is charging. So thank you for listening, and I am ready for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrick, for your interesting presentation. It was very quick and concise. We appreciate that. Leaves more time for questions.
Yeah.
I'd like to begin by asking, you recently announced a new sort of divisional structure. Can you talk a bit about how you expect that to change or perhaps improve your operating performance?
We think that's quite important. We often talked about our focus, and this is giving more focus of the different area. The electrification with the electrical distribution product, project, and temporary power, and then we have one segment with the mobility. So that will be more structure, more focus on these areas. Therefore, we make these changes to make more focus and more business in both areas, so to say.
Okay, and also in sort of the mid to long term, which sub-segment within EV charging do you see as sort of the fastest growing? Is it home charging, public charging? Is it fast DC charging? And sort of where do you see the most exciting growth opportunities there?
We can say it's in AC charging, and that include both home charging and working places, and also some public chargers. We think the DC charging will come later on because it's related to pure electrical cars. Now we have a lot of hybrid cars in Sweden, for example. So the AC charging with wall boxes and public charging, we think it will increase mostly the coming years, and maybe when we are in 23, 24, 25, it will increase more and more with DC charging.
Okay, and what are sort of the margins? Do you have different margins between home and public chargers, or different margins on AC and DC? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, overall, it's a quite similar margin, but of course it will be more. The segment for home charging will be price pressured. So to say, with the home charger with less functionality, there it will be a quite tough fight with low margin. But then overall, it's quite similar margin, and we have also decided not to be the cheapest one on the market because we want to add safety and functionality, and with this broad range that we can help the customer. So the margin is quite similar.
Okay, that's interesting that you choose to compete on sort of quality rather than price. Can you talk a bit about then how does your charging solutions, how do they differ from your competitors, and in what way do they justify the higher price?
I think it's the broad range which is the one of the key factors here, because if we go to our working place or a property, they need several chargers. For example, they want to have one fast charger, they want to have some charging poles, and they want to have some wall boxes, and we can help them with this complete solution. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we can also help them with the power supply and the safety components. And I think the customer appreciate to have one supplier of all products, and that I think they are ready to pay some more money. Of course, we have to be in some levels to market price, of course, but we think that's important for the customer.
Okay. Also, if we look a bit at the market, obviously there have been some disturbances right now with semiconductor issues and supply chain issues. How much has this affected you so far? And sort of when do you see this situation getting better?
Of course, as we mentioned in the Q3 report, we have had disturbance with most electronic components. But we have managed both in Q1, 2, and 3 in a really good way, and we have a strong team working with this. Also when we're supplying, but also in our product development that we change and reconstruct some product to manage to deliver. But of course, we have, as we said, a very strong order book, but we have managed really good. But of course, we have to work on this on daily basis, and we think this will continue for some more quarters, of course.
Has your supply been able to sort of meet the demand, or is there a pent-up demand we should expect somewhere in perhaps 2022?
Yeah, of course, we have a big demand that we can deliver at this stage, yes.
And have you seen any effects from obviously rising electricity prices? Can you talk a bit about how that affects your business and the underlying demand?
Yeah, of course, we can see increasing prices on electronics and other raw materials, but we could handle that quite good to the market and increase the prices to the customers. So I think we have handled that quite good. And as you also could see in our Q3 report, that we have still a strong margin.
Okay. So your contracts are built so that you can actually push those costs forward to customers very quickly. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's quite correct. So to say, some contracts you can do it quicker, and someone you have some could be some month delayed. Yes, of course.
Okay. If we look sort of at the regulatory side of it, what are the incentives for your customers to install EV chargers, both for sort of private persons but also for companies? Are there any regulation giving them tax subsidies or similar?
Yeah, it's different from different countries, so to say. But if we take Sweden again as example, if you install and charger at home, we have something called grön teknik, which give you 50% of the installation and the hardware. And if you have a public charging place, you have something called klimatklivet. And these initiatives you have in the different countries, you have it in the UK in some form, you have it in Germany, you have it in Finland, but it's a bit different from country to country. But of course, these initiatives help a lot, and I think we will see it more and more in some countries in Europe the coming years here.
Okay, would you say that Sweden is ahead of your other markets right now? And if so, do you expect the other markets to sort of catch up in the coming years?
Yeah, I think some of them already are. We saw some statements from UK from a few weeks ago, where they should have some new initiatives and forbidden fossil cars in 2030 and push the infrastructure in the countries. So we see this happening in many countries, but of course Sweden has been had a good program for this, I think.
Okay, and also looking at sort of the different geographies you operate in, is there any market where you see particularly exciting growth in the coming years in terms of geography?
Yeah, of course. As I mentioned, we open up a company in UK in the end of 2019, which we think it's a very interesting market. The increasing of pure electrical cars rapidly, and we think it's very, very interesting. And then, of course, we see other countries in Europe, such Germany, we are doing a lot of business into. We can also see Spain and so on. So it's several countries in Europe is very interesting that we are today doing business. And so yes, Europe is our prioritized market, and we are looking on several markets there.
Okay. So when you sort of evaluate which markets to go into and which markets to stay out of, what are the main criteria that you look at?
Of course, the regulations, now we have a standardized, the e-mobility is standardized due to safety and communication, but sometimes you have some regulations in the country. And then, of course, we look into the initiatives. We look into which cars and the development in the cars in the countries, and of course the value chain in the country, if we can apply our products in a smart way to the country. So it's some things we are looking at, of course, before we enter new countries.
And just generally speaking, when you enter a new market, do you have to take a short-term profitability hit when you enter a new market, or can you enter at similar margins in new markets as well?
I think it depends from market to market, but we can see we have handled the UK entry into UK very good. So I think it depends on which market and which way you are doing it.
Okay. So could you elaborate a bit on that? What does it depend on?
You mean if we go into some country and if you start from zero with a new company, or if you do some acquisition, or it depends how we enter into the market, so to say.
Okay. So is your preferred way to acquire a company in a new market, or to go in there yourselves?
It also depends, as we may when we start up in UK, we start with a new company, but it depends on which market we're talking about.
Okay. Well, that's about all I had for my questions. I'll just go ahead and leave it up to you for some final remarks, if you'd like to say anything before we wrap up.
I think we have had a very good questions, and I think this e-mobility business is very interesting, and I think also you all listening should go into GARO.se or garo.com to read more about the e-mobility, but also to see our other interesting 3 area to look into the whole portfolio. So thank you for listening.